righty, and this is James Moore. Good to have you with us. Welcome to City Business. I better get going before I hurt myself here. Good to have Mr. Jason in the house. That's FMC, Fairfield Media Center, right? That's right. And they have a great website, and these City Business videos are up in a regular fashion. Another way to catch what's going on in and around the Hapsville of City Council. Speaking of which, we have Michael Halley joining us, Fourth Ward City Council person. And good to see you, Michael. How you doing?
Good. Glad to be here as always.
Well, let's jump right in. I think there was a City Council meeting, wasn't there?
There was.
Fantastic.
And this is a review of the September 8th regular City Council meeting. It was actually a relatively short agenda, but not exactly a short meeting. Sometimes things take a while to discuss. We had 3 public appearances. First was Travis Squires from Piper Jaffray. It's a financing firm out of Des Moines that the city uses to give financing advice, essentially. I think we started working with them post bond rating downgrade to try to find a way to get our bond rating back up. And we have a plan, and we're sticking to it. This discussion focused around financing for the pool and gym project. So any project that is paid for in part, in this case, majority by donations and pledges, generally there's going to be a gap between when those pledges, when the money actually comes in, and when the city needs to pay it for the construction of the project. So we discussed potential timelines, approximately how much we may need to borrow in a short term, some different options for that. No decision was made, but it was an important discussion to have. Some basic figures show that sometime next year and into 2016, we may need to borrow $1.5 million just to bridge the gap so that we can pay the contractors until those pledges come in. Typically, banks aren't real keen on giving a loan based on pledges, so there's some other mechanisms that we can use. So that was important because we are moving forward. Today is September 9th, and from what I've heard, the new pool, the construction will begin next week, so the week of September 15th.
Excellent. That's good to hear.
Yep.
And I wanted to say, before you get on, this is not connected with the city, but I know Sunday night there was quite a gathering there. The mayor came and gave a proclamation, so that's related to the city, about suicide and suicide prevention, awareness.
We can talk about that at the end.
Okay.
I'm going to hit these because and then actually there's more to talk about in terms of that one, and then an update on the train fatality that I have.
Fantastic.
So I didn't want to talk about the heavy stuff early because then everything after would feel trite. So we'll get through the nerd stuff, as I call it.
Trite but true.
Yes. Good one. All right, next we heard from Dr. Richard Fersman from another city administrator search firm. This was the third and final one that the council heard from. They just basically answered the questions we had for them, gave us a presentation on how they go about doing a search. So now that we've heard from the 3 that we wanted to hear from by the next city council meeting on September 22nd, we will make a decision which firm to use. The timeline for whichever firm we go with is to have an administrator starting January 1st, or to say after the new year, because January 1st actually is a holiday. So we wouldn't want that person to have to work on a holiday. It's probably against the law anyway. So we'll just say after the new year. Then we heard from Greg and Doug White. Grace and Doug. Sorry, Grace. They want to keep a very small amount of bees in their backyard. They do live here in town. There is currently a law that says you cannot keep bees within city limits unless you get a variance. A couple variances have been given since I've been on the council. One was to MUM, and another was to Sky Factory, and those are both not residential areas. This is a residential area, but they're not keeping a large hive. They're not making honey. They're doing some research. So they're keeping a small amount. They'll actually give back to the hive master in November-ish or whenever the cold comes in, because unless a beehive is large enough, it can't produce enough honey to survive the winter. So they're going to return the queen and all her drones and such to the hive master. So we approved that because it sounds really interesting.
Yeah, it sounds like Dungeons and Dragons or something.
Yeah.
And obviously I've never played, so I don't know what I'm talking about, but all those names. And why am I looking at the camera radio
The research
audience?
is interesting, though, because, there is a large bee colony collapse going on worldwide. And that's serious because they're a main pollinator for many of the foods that we eat. So that passed unanimously. We moved on.
Yep, no bees, no birds.
Yeah, no bees, no many fruits that we enjoy. I don't know if you know, but in China, the bee population has collapsed so much in certain areas. They have human beings pollinating fruit trees and nut trees. They have to painstakingly take the pollen and transfer it.
Well, you know what? Jobs anyway, but let's not go there.
Yeah. All right. Next, we got an action item. We awarded the Highland Street Improvement Project. So some people may remember Highland Street, certain 2-block portion was in bad shape and was on the list of streets to reconstruct, complete reconstruction. There were some old maple trees that were removed from there, but then that was actually, in the end, had less to do with the street project than it had to do with their age and the fact that they were rotting out, according to DNR, what is he called? District Forester. So we didn't go with the advice just of a tree service provider who had a stake in, hey, yeah, take those trees down and pay us to do it. We went with the third party, somebody who had no stake in it, and the assessment was remove them immediately. So they're gone. But part of this project, the project will not be deemed complete until all those trees are replaced with new trees. So that'll happen next spring, as will most likely the actual street construction's too late in the season at this point. Second Street, though, Second Street. Have you seen that new resurfaced area where the brick used to be exposed from Maine?
Looks beautiful.
Very smooth. You can go out, I'm not going to tell people to ride their roller skates in the street, but that's how smooth it is. You could ride, potentially, your roller skates. All right, the next thing we approved an easement with Log Enterprise. This is basically the Power Wagon company. They bought the old DOT lot that's across the street from, their house is in between, but it's across from where the new pool's going in. And for $1 a year, they will allow the city, the construction crews who are building the pool, to use that as a staging area. Slightly south of that is a lot the city owns they'll have access between the houses to get to the pool site. So that's how that'll work. But just another little, you have to make these formal agreements and make it all legal before you move forward. We got our third and final reading of the ordinance to, we basically amended what we call that one, the highway, or the Burlington West TIF district. I don't know what the name of it is, but it includes the new bank on the west side of town by Walmart, the credit union, and then the street all the way down to where the pool is now, or the new gym's going in, and basically it takes in that land the city purchased, and we're using the increment from the bank and some other things to pay for the land. So it's a way to fund the land purchase that was necessary for this whole project without burdening taxpayers. The mayor, what did he talk about? He talked about there's a meeting next week, Tuesday the 15th. I don't remember what time, but it's talking about taxes. Do you know?
Tuesday would be the 16th, I think.
Yes, 16th. Thank you.
Okay.
Tuesday the 16th. And I don't remember who's putting it on, but he mentioned, I believe it's in the evening, just talking with the local tax authorities. Local tax authorities are the city and the schools and the hospital. And I don't know if I think it's kind of a tax awareness or why are our taxes so high kind of meeting. So it might be interesting for people to attend that if they're interested in that kind of thing.
I just want to jump in, remind listeners you're listening to City Business. This is Michael Halley talking from the City Council point of view. This is James Moore with solar-powered KRUU-FM, and we do this every Tuesday after each City Council meeting at 12:30. The Thursday dinner, 6:30 p.m., and then the following Monday, 6:30 a.m., and it also goes up on the Channel 9 for Fairfield Media Center. So Jason Strong and good folks there are doing such great work. That's another chance to see it in living Technicolor if you can handle it. I'm just saying.
It's also on their website, fairfieldmediacenter.com, and they have a YouTube page. I'm a subscriber because I just enjoy other things so much.
Not because you like looking at yourself, but
there's so much on there. There's Werner Elmker does a lot of videos of local events.
Sweet.
Gets people playing sports. He did the Trojan Dash and all sorts of fun runs and Color of the Earth run and all these Parks and Rec. Basically is the I think that Park and Rec pay him a little bit to do some of that work because he's the Park and Rec guy. I mean, he gets pretty much every event they put on. He comes out and does video, and sometimes he just puts his camera on his bike and rides the trails and puts that up. And there's always interesting music in the background. So
very nice.
There's a lot on there. There's Toastmasters is on there. The Chamber Talk with Nancy Morrissey is on there. I know I'm forgetting some stuff, but there's never a dull moment. Fairfield Media Center. All right, that was my commercial plug.
And now back to
city business,
to our regularly scheduled program.
All right.
By the way, don't forget you can catch A Reasonable Alternative Fridays. I forget to mention this regularly with Michael and the inimitable, irascible Matt Molyneux, who is neither of those, but certainly is himself one of the mellow Molyneux clan, and it's an interesting gambit. I'll just say that.
Yeah, you get to see a different
Fridays
side of
at 8 p.m.
Yeah, it's a little more, even goofier than this show, which may be hard to imagine, but. We just, Friday, end of the work week, we just have a good time, play good music. All right, we didn't really have committee reports. Property committee was talking about some properties that may need some action taken on them when they fall into serious disrepair, but nothing on that. We did hear from Melanie Carlson, who's a city engineer and kind of filling in some of the city administrator duties currently, and Stephen Pedrick, who is the Jefferson County Trails Council board president. They both attended. It was actually a Blue Zones sponsored event in Algona, Iowa, all about complete streets. They came back and they reported. I'm going to get to something I think you'll be happy to hear as well. So basically it's the idea that you can make streets not just about the cars, not just about the bikes, but about cars, bikes, and pedestrians. All forms of transportation should be considered, that the best way to move people efficiently is when all are considered and the infrastructure supports that. So moving forward, when the city has we don't generally build new streets, but we did recently do one out by the Pilot Grove Saving Bank. That is a complete street in that it's wide enough for bikes to get by on the sides and it has sidewalks on both sides. So all forms of transportation are taken into account. Stephen was talking about a website where you can get a grade on a property. How close is it to amenities and such? So they graded the council's properties, and the mayor did not get a high grade because he's kind of out in what you would consider kind of the burbs, not close to many necessities. But 404 North Main, my house, which is just down the street from your house, got the highest rating. So we are definitely, and we're right here in the neighborhood at KRUU, because we can walk to the grocery store, we can walk downtown.
Cultural district.
We got the gas station.
Howard Park.
We got it all.
Cultural society, Arts and Convention Center.
So, I know there are no houses currently available in our neighborhood, but if there were, you might want to consider moving down on Main Street.
What an interesting.
It was interesting. Just a little fun tidbit. And then the last thing really from the meeting.
And it's so quiet now in that neighborhood.
Yeah, it is. Thank you to everyone who contributed to the quiet zone. It is very different. I think about it a lot. I notice it a lot. You hear a train go by, you still hear it. It is not a silent thing.
But, I always thought remember I mentioned this too, I thought that would loom a lot larger. But they've also worked at the tracks right outside where our house is. It used to really shake, and now it's amazing. You put enough rocks down and work it over. Yep. They've really done quite a job there. But when you do hear a horn from time to time, whoa.
Yeah, it reminds you
of, wow, when they were going 7 times every train.
Yeah, it's a lot of horns.
It's funny how just a little bit annoying that is, and before you just weren't used to it. I wonder how the folks that love those whining whistles feel?
I don't know. I haven't talked to many of them, but
They don't seem to be whining too much about it.
yeah, I wonder if there's some who maybe complained before the quiet zone, but now they're kind of secretly.
No, they're quiet.
Yeah, they're like, it is kind of nice. But all right, last thing is Darren Hamilton, who is a council member, has been the chair of the wastewater and water utilities board for a number of years, and really, as a council member, gone above and beyond what you would expect somebody who gets $150 a month to do, which is he has worked tirelessly to help with the whole wastewater upgrade, getting everything lined up. And he's worked with, I think, 4 different wastewater superintendents over the years. It's really his passion, and he wants to see it get done. He's not going to stick around, I don't think, on the council for 20-some years or whatever, until 10 years or whatever it's going to take to get this done. But I know he wants to see it on its way. So he attended a meeting that was kind of the people who lend the money for these upgrades. They were having some meeting, and he went with Sean Worley, who is our current wastewater superintendent. And he just wanted to report to the council that, you remember those sponsored projects I talked about where they're improving the water quality? The organizers of that program continually ask somebody from Fairfield to speak about it, because we did basically they said above and beyond what they expected these projects to be. In most cases, a community might say, all right, let's pick one. It's going to be one project and it's going to have this impact. And we picked half a dozen or more. Within those, we gave people the leeway, in some cases, to use it as they see fit. So it's diverse. The impact is then magnified, and they continually use Fairfield as the way to do it right. And so that was just a real feather in our cap, and good to hear. And that was one of those projects that was, you had the water quality club or the water club from university, and you had interested citizens who just, this is a passion of theirs, water quality. It really took a lot of people working together. Obviously the wastewater department, obviously Councilman Hamilton, Melanie Carlson, and others from French Reniker, but really just that kind of group thinking to come up with these creative ways to use these funds.
Well, that's very cool. It reminds me of the Great Places thing when Fairfield, a number of years back, I think we were awarded from the second year they did that. It shifted a little bit after that, but I remember when many of the groups went up to present, it was like a whole room full of people. They were used to a few people coming up, and so many different projects going on. I'll just mention I got a call today from the City of League of Cities.
League of Cities, yeah.
Cityscape just asked me to write an 900 word article for that publication talking about radio and what it can do for a community. And they've been watching what's going on here. That's out of ISU and, of course, connected with Scott Tim. And I said, sure, I'd be glad to do that. There's somebody else who's been asking with a national publication to do something similar. So that's part of what Fairfield does. We connect, we communicate, people are watching, and there's a lot of great things going on around the state. But it's a very nice thing for this community, I think, to continue to do what it does, be inspired by others, but also, be inspiring.
Yep, exactly. It's both. Well, Cityscape, I believe most cities are a member of the League of Cities. Every council member gets their publication, their magazine every month. So that'll go out to a lot of people in the state.
Great, yeah. I never really heard about it myself because I'm other circles. But again, one of those things, people doing so many great things here. We had a great meeting with Rustin and Mandy at Convention Center with the Fairfest oversight committee there, getting ready for next year, and good things being planned from a lot of quarters. How can we create our own RAGBRAI style event annually and get those numbers up in that sphere? RAGBRAI is a special thing. It's a different thing, but take all those threads and see what kind of quilt we can make out of it. Speaking of that, you wanted to mention, we have just a few more minutes about the railroad and this special Fairfield Cares group that's gotten together with Rob Hubler and Kathleen Casey telling their stories, and also Scott Terry, psychologist, who has really helped move this forward in a little bit troubling high numbers for Fairfield.
Yeah.
What do you have to say?
Well, there's so much to say. It really feels like such a important issue that's in the air right now. It's talking about mental health, talking about suicide prevention. The Fairfield Police Department did put out their final report on the very unfortunate fatality that happened last weekend. A gentleman was visiting Fairfield from West Des Moines, and according to the report, was lying face up on the tracks for some reason around 4:30 a.m. in the morning, and the train, as will always do in that situation, sounded its horn. That's the thing about the quiet zone. It does not prohibit the train engineer from using the horn. It's just that the engineer does not need to under normal circumstances. But under any sort of circumstance where there's a vehicle, a person, even an animal in the tracks, they may and can use the horn. Sounded the horn, hit the emergency brake. He did not respond for whatever reason. And that was that. The blood work came back. He had high alcohol content, but no drugs. He wasn't, according to people who talked to him, in any sort of emotional or mental health distress. Doesn't look like suicide, doesn't look like homicide. It looks like a very unfortunate freak accident. And the only lesson that we can learn from this is that you just stay off the tracks. The tracks are there. The trains coming through cannot brake in time. It takes them quite a ways to brake. And the only place anyone in town should be crossing the tracks is at one of our at-grade crossings, and you should get over them as quickly as possible and look both ways, whether you're driving on a bike, whatever, just look and cross and be done with it. Don't walk down the tracks. Don't play on the tracks. They're not there for entertainment. It's against the law. You're trespassing, and it's just not worth the risk. Train engineers, I've talked to them. I know a lady who ran trains on this line for years, and it scars them when these things happen. They can't stop. They can't swerve. They just watch it all unfold when someone's on the track, and it's just heart-wrenching. And to think that it was not a suicide, to think that it was just an accident, not that makes it better, but it's
well, it's hard to know that too.
It is hard
to say that it's not a suicide. A guy who's, by the way, an incredible write-up on this individual in the Des Moines Register.
Like a great man,
and hitchhiking for many years, and just had given a presentation at the Orpheum Theater, and spent time at the Arbor Bar. So, I mean, I'm not saying it wasn't an accident or whatever, but it's a little bit odd to fall asleep or pass out on a railroad track. It's just, whatever that means, however you want to assess it. I mean, there was another event that I couldn't tell. Was there any other on this other gentleman who supposedly, I mean, I've heard reports that there was gunfire.
No gunfire.
And then I'm just saying, I heard somebody say that's why there was a tactical team coming there to go in. Why would there be a tactical team coming in just because there was something happened to bring them there? Yeah. And then the police report said no guns, that the man just passed away. Do you know any more on that?
Just what the report said. It said
something, and the way they worded it, it's just not clear, because it said it could be this or that. So I guess we'll wait to hear. I'm not trying to cast aspersions.
But again, it was
because when Sereni passed away, it said it was an accident too. We don't know. I guess, but these things, I think it does matter not how you label them, but how you treat them. Either way. Yeah. And so again, I'm not casting aspersions on that. One may not know. I mean, when it's something
you can't,
as odd as somebody asleep on the railroad tracks,
or passed out, or tripped and fell and hit his head. You never know. Exactly. And if there's no witness, you just piece it together the best you can, and you try to answer the questions for their surviving family. The gentleman who came to town to die in his abandoned house, his childhood house, I don't understand what that was really about. Really, as much as anybody, I just read the police report and scratched my head. But it's just, I don't know, there's something in the air right now. It really is this mental health component.
Well, prior to that, we should say that there have been twice the number of suicides for a town our size, and I think some 22 over 5 connected with the north side, with the TM side of the equation, if you will, roughly. And so enough of a concern that people are talking about it. The mayor issued a proclamation. It's Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. I think it's healthy to be able to know there's a place to talk about it. Is that the sense you got?
Yes, and then I did not attend that meeting Sunday, but I did see the mayor did attend, and it looks like very well attended by the public. A lot of people are interested in this. I know there are some groups starting. Part of this, I suppose, is this crisis home is interested. Is piquing people's interest as well. Some of the neighbors don't want it on East Burlington. They think that it's going to bring unstable people or violent people, but if it can bring people who are in need of support that can prevent suicide, I'm 100% for that. So there's just so much going on in this way. It's just the question is in terms of me here on behalf of the city, what can we do? So what we can do is be supportive of a crisis home in Fairfield, be supportive of mental health services available to the public, whatever way we can. And I'm happy to talk about it. I think it is important to talk about, and the statistics don't lie. It's definitely an issue locally.
And also, definitely interviewing Scott Terry now the second time, he's talking about doing a show, Mental Health Matters, which I'm highly encouraging. We're an open forum here. If people want to do program, we have 2 or 3 or 4 new shows in the pipeline that are exciting, but that would be great. But he's also talking about the university being interested and embracing the mental health issue in its, as well. And I think it's just good. And it's also interesting to realize it's not just one side or part of the community. It's something just for all of us to be a little bit more aware of. And I guess speaking of that, we're out of time. Any final thoughts? I
think we're done. We've covered it all.
We've covered it all. Folks, that's it. The station, everything's done. It's all done. We've gotten there. We're done. Okay,
for now.
Oh, for now.
We'll be back next 2 weeks from now.
Always a qualifier. Siesta Ocho. This is James Moore, City Business, Michael Halley. Keep it tuned right here. Solar powered KRUU-FM.